guacamole. In every single way, guacamole. You cannot take it from me. You can't take it from me. 365 days a year, guacamole. 30 days in September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, but February is 28, we done. 3 days in September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, but February is 28, we done.
Okay. That was something. What kind of snow cone are you?
Coconut blueberry.
Coconut blueberry. That sounds fancy. Where do you make those kind of snow cones?
I don't know because I am a snow cone.
Do you know what one of Dad's favorite combinations of flavors for a plate of dessert is? Yeah? Blueberry, coconut, and popcorn.
Wait, it said 0.
It also says 3 o'clock. So, what's up everybody? It's 3 o'clock. It is Tuesday, the 31st of March. Do you want to give a quick shout out and say happy birthday, Mr. Chris?
Happy birthday, Mr. Chris.
All right. And today, because it is Tuesday, and if you notice the sign, Blaze made our sign today. Pretty advanced for a kindergartner. Pretty advanced if you notice the alternate spelling for Tuesday. It's a good time. We're doing Taco Tuesday, so we figured we'd make some tortillas. Okay, do you like tortillas? Yeah. Now, I prefer corn tortillas. I spent some time in Mexico, and to me, that is the only way to do it. But making corn tortillas here is a little tricky. Maseca, which you can buy at the grocery store, is okay. But really, you need the fresh, prepared, nixtamalized masa, which is a little tricky to get. It's a little tricky to work with. And without a proper tortilla press, it becomes kind of difficult. I don't have a tortilla press, and I didn't want to rig one up. So we're going to make everybody else's favorite in my house, flour tortillas, which are obviously also delicious. So, you like flour tortillas, yeah? Yeah, what kind of tacos we having tonight?
Meat tacos?
Fish tacos, yeah, we're going to have fish tacos.
Meat tacos with cheese.
Okay, meat tacos with cheese. So, our recipe is, we have 8 ounces of flour, we have 1 teaspoon of baking powder, we will be using 2 ounces of fat that is chilled, we'll come back to that, 4 ounces of warm water, and a teaspoon of salt. That is a very, very, very basic tortilla recipe. You can, of course, add spices and flavorings to it as you desire. If you want to make this a whole wheat tortilla, I would still have the bulk of it be bread or all-purpose flour, but I would sub in like 1.5 ounces of whole wheat flour instead. Now, I said 2 ounces of fat because my recipe calls for lard because I'm more of a purist. Everybody else in my family is more along the lines of vegetarian. Even though he keeps talking about meat, he eats pretty vegetarian. My wife is vegetarian. Today we'll be using butter instead of lard. But it could be lard, it could be butter, it could be shortening, it could be oil if you work fast enough. It's a little trickier to work with, but as long as it's 2 ounces of fat, we're good to go. Get your hands out of your pocket, little snow cone. All right, do you have a joke for us?
Yeah.
All right, don't tell me, tell them. Don't tell me, tell them.
I forgot it. Can I have the list?
Sure, you can have the list.
What does,
Your delivery is amazing. You should probably lower this so they can see your face.
what does,
Depressed
tortilla say?
What does a depressed tortilla say? I don't know. What does a depressed tortilla say?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Well, hopefully there aren't any depressed tortillas. Hopefully people out there aren't depressed with the furlough and the quarantine that's going on. They should seek help. But today we're going to make some delicious tortillas. Are you ready to help me out there, Snow Cone?
Is there supposed to be another joke?
We'll use another joke in a minute. But since you didn't remember the first one, we probably shouldn't shoot for 2, right?
Why?
It doesn't matter. So, we have our dry ingredients in the bowl. We have our chilled fat. Obviously, if you're using oil, it is very unlikely it'll be super chilled, but oil reacts a little differently with flour, so it will just go straight in. We're going to take our chilled fat. Hopefully you saw this with the biscuits, because guess what? This recipe is dangerously close to a biscuit recipe, and we're just going to grate our butter in there. We're gonna move fairly quickly, and I'm gonna have my snow cone assistant here mix it in real nice and even. Now watch your fingers, of course. Nobody wants to get any dead skin or hurt themselves with this, so make sure to practice good safety with your grater. Today I'm using a pretty fine grater. It just saves me a little trouble on the other end, especially since my assistant is of course a kindergartner who is a snow cone today. You know, work with what you got. If you wanted to put this in your food processor, you could. If you wanted to use your stand mixer, you could. If you just wanted to cut it up into pieces, you could. As long as we get it mixed in there, it's fine. I just like this.
You almost cut it yourself.
I did almost cut myself. Yeah, it's kind of the standard life of any chef anywhere. We always almost cut ourselves, and then one day we do, and it's very frustrating.
No, the butter just went straight in.
The butter did go straight in. Now here's what I want you to do. Like our biscuits, I want you to mix this up with the flour, okay?
Wait, with my hands?
Yes, with your hands. That's why we had you wash them so well. Okay, so as we watch our snow cone mix this, remember, like with our biscuits, we're trying to kind of work the flour and the fat together until we get something that's fairly uniform in texture and shape and size. Because obviously if we try to griddle this giant piece of butter inside of a tortilla, it's not going to work. And we are going to griddle these to make them a little more appropriate. Keep going, buddy, come on. These people don't have all day to watch.
It's about with my little snowy hands, and it's hard to mix this up.
Oh, your little snowy hands. But they probably keep the butter nice and cold, huh?
Huh?
Yeah, but now is it going to taste like coconuts and blueberry?
I think so.
Oh no, I don't know if that's a good tortilla idea. Do you think it's a good tortilla idea?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Well then, there you have it. Why don't you go ahead and get your hands out of there, bud. Go ahead, dust them off. Nope. Over the bowl. Remember, we don't want to make a big mess. Gently clap. Good, good, good. Right, okay, thank you. That is enough, snow cone.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you, sir. All right, so I will take over so we can save ourselves a little bit of agony here. Tortillas can be made way in advance. I'm sure you know that because you go to grocery stores and they're made way in advance. Also, the tortillas that you are going to make are very likely to be much, much thicker than the tortillas that you buy commercially because they have special machines that roll them out and they cook them while they press them. So these will be a little fatter, a little puffier. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but just know that going in, okay? So our warm water goes in. It does need to be warm. It shouldn't be boiling or even like hot to the touch, but it should be warm because what we're trying to do is kind of loosen up that fat a little bit. Yes, snow cone.
And if you boil it like Joe the Baker said, then if you do that, then it will melt you like on a snow cone.
Yeah, we're not snow cones, but if you are a snow cone, don't use boiling water. That is a good safety tip. Also, if you're a snowman or a snow woman, snow angel, pretty much anything snow related, right? We don't want to handle boiling water.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Or ice related.
Or ice related. Okay, that's smart. Good. Thank you for your snow-based safety. All right, so we're gonna work this until it's nice and uniform. You see, it doesn't stick to me. I could do this on the countertop, but of course, I have enough messes to clean up around here. So I keep it in the bowl. We're gonna work it just until it's nice and smooth. Now, traditionally, I would recommend chilling this down after you've mixed it because we've just activated a whole lot of gluten, which will make the next step a little more difficult, rolling it out. But I don't want to make everybody wait forever, so if you have the time and the accommodations to do it, I would chill this down for about 20 minutes. I would portion it, roll it, and then chill that down for another 20 minutes. So if you make these at lunch, you could have them for dinner. Now, the size of your tortilla is going to depend a lot on your abilities to roll. It will also depend on how much, like how big the size of your ball is initially. We're going to cut this into 8 because we're going to make some pretty decent sized tortillas. If you wanted to make
8?
Yes, 8.
Yay, 8.
Yay, 8.
Wait, if those were snow cones, then it would be multiplying me.
Yeah, it's also multiplying the dough, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to roll these into little balls. It'll make the next step that much easier too. Do you want to try it, Snow Cone? Yeah, go for
Yeah,
it.
with my karate chop.
Yeah, with your karate chop hands.
Is that make sure it doesn't melt if you're a snow cone?
Yeah, I don't think a karate chop will make things melt, but okay. Right, and the balls don't need to be super, super perfect. We're just trying to get them round to get the system, to get the shaping started.
Roly poly, roly poly.
Yeah, roly-poly, roly-bolly. As just like you said.
It's roly poly, roly poly.
Oh, silly me. I don't even know how to do that right. All right, so there's a ball, kind of. So again, I would chill the dough if I had all the time in the world. I would chill the dough after I mixed it for about 20 minutes. I would then portion it into these balls, and then I would chill that for about 20 minutes, and it will make the next step so much easier. Now, what we're gonna do, quickly rub all the flour off our hands. We will be griddling this. So I will bring out my induction burner again. I love induction. It's flameless, it's quick, it's safe, it's easy. You're fine, bud. Come on up here.
Just in case.
Oh, because you're a snow cone today?
Uh-huh.
Well, you know what? It's flameless, so you should be okay. The heat shouldn't get too far out there, okay? All right, safety first. I like it. Now, we're going to use a little bit of flour. We don't want to use so much that we start changing the recipe, but a little bit of flour will help you with what comes next. So we pat it down, both sides, and hopefully you've seen this before. We're just rolling. Don't be afraid to move it around. Kind of the traditional thinking is that flour is what keeps something from sticking to the surface. It's actually air that keeps it from sticking to the surface. If I were to rotate this dough every couple of seconds, it wouldn't stick anyway. But what flour does is it helps us create a whole bunch of little air gaps so air can get in there. So it's not really the flour that does it, it is the air. Now, what do you think? Is this a round tortilla?
Pretty much.
Kind of.
Because it has like both tiny edges.
Yeah. So if you're worried about something being completely perfect, of course you could come through with a cutter and cut it. If you just want it round-ish, also totally fine. Or of course you can make them thicker and thicker. Usually it's harder to get things more exact as you roll them thinner. But we will set that aside for a second. We will make sure our griddle is heating up. And that's it. Do you want to roll one for me, little snow cone?
As long as when we put it in the griddle, it doesn't melt me.
Okay. Hopefully not. Alright, so let's see if you can do what I did, alright? A little bit of flour.
Like flour.
We'll start patting it out.
So, roll.
And then roll. Yep. I always like to just test the temperature up here, because if I put my tortilla in too early and it's not hot enough, it will stick to the surface. Make sure to remember, you watch me rotate it and flip it, okay? Otherwise you're just going to smash it into the surface. If it's too cold, it will stick to it, and then it'll be very, very difficult to get off, so you need to make sure that it's good and hot before we even throw a tortilla on there, okay? Remember I told them. Great so far, bud. Oh, okay, yeah.
Snow cone is fast.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's so fast that he can't
Okay,
make
bud.
it count.
Thank you. You're just smashing it at this point. So my snow cone was doing a really great job until he got too excited, and then it just went all kinds of sideways, but that's okay. This will be the one he eats. Totally fine. Now, if at this point you were like, oh, you know what? I did want to add a little seasoning. You can dust these with a little bit of seasoning as you're rolling it, and it will incorporate. It'll be just fine. So as we check our temperature, I'm going to go ahead and toss one on here, straight on. Try and make sure it doesn't fold over. Do it at medium-high to high heat because we want to get that fat melting, creating a lot of steam. We want to activate the baking powder very, very quickly so that it puffs up. If you've made a perfect tortilla, calm down, snow cone. If you make a perfect tortilla, it'll kind of clamshell up where it'll puff up almost like a pita, right? Now, I like to practice safety and use a little spatula to make sure that it doesn't stick and rotate it around inside my pan. I can feel that it is plenty hot in there.
And it might puff up in the middle of it like a pizza.
Yeah, it'll puff up. That's kind of what I was saying. And we just cook it until it is starting to blister, and then we go from there. Right? Try and rotate it around as you can. We want to make sure that it's not going to stick anywhere.
Or it's not going to melt the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not going to melt the whole thing, but we want to make sure we're rotating it so that it cooks evenly. Okay? If you've got old seasoned fingers like mine, you can just reach in there and move it around, but I wouldn't recommend that for kids or anything. Safety first. That's why I recommend the spatula. If you find that it's only burning and it's not really puffing up, there are a couple of options there. Maybe you're rolling it too thin to where it can't create a little clamshell, or you're cooking it too hot. So I'd recommend making a thicker tortilla first and then going from there, or if it's still causing a problem, then you turn down the temperature. Right? So here is my fresh homemade tortilla. You can see we've got some decent little blisters there, right? Unless we're eating these right away, typically tortillas are kind of cooked halfway. and then we re-griddle them or we grill them to puff them up all the way right before we serve them. Like I said, tonight we're gonna have fish tacos. I'll probably grill those. I'll take these, while they're completely edible, I would consider them kind of par cooked, and I would cook them again on the grill to get them a little extra flavor and make sure that they're completely as puffy and beautiful as possible. Yes, Snow Cone?
Why did you just take it out and put it next to me? Because I'm starting to melt, see?
You are very much in character, aren't you, sir? Yeah, you're all about it. All right, so I have my second one on here. It's puffing up very nicely. I flip it over. Now, the best way to store our tortillas as we're making them is we take a standard tea towel. It does not need to be wet or anything, and we will stack them inside the tea towel. If you have what's called a tortillera, which is basically a wicker basket made for holding tortillas, you can then put this in there and it'll just help trap in any steam and heat. But if you don't, stacking them in the towel and folding the towel over them will be plenty to make sure that they stay really nice and soft for cooking them again later. If you're gonna make fresh tortillas and store them for the rest of the week, I would recommend wrapping them in the towel for about an hour, then transfer them to a Ziploc bag, get as much air out as possible, and then chill them or freeze them. They will microwave to thaw very, very well, so it makes it super easy. We don't want to leave them at room temp. They will stale very quickly. And of course, if you put them in the Ziploc bag too soon, condensation will make them all stick together like one giant tortilla. Our snow cone today is almost 6 years old, right? You always say 5 and what?
3/4.
5 3/4, even though it's really 5 11/12, huh? Whoa, that was crazy how I did that. All right, so here's our second tortilla. We drop it right on there. We fold this over. There doesn't have to be any kind of prescription for this. We just fold it over to where they're enclosed, and then we keep going. As long as our griddle's hot, we're fine. If you have a big enough griddle, or you have like a giant comal, you just run them up and down the comal as long as you need. Yes, sir. Right, so while we're in the griddle, we can be making these on the side. If you wanted to roll all of them out and have them on a tray, you could of course griddle them all at once more evenly, but I think this is also perfectly fine. Otherwise, people have a tendency to rush their tortillas because they're just watching them too closely. Yes, sir?
How does it matter on the grill to make it bubble or not? Like that.
So,
it's not bubbling.
It's not bubbling yet because we've only cooked one side. But the way that it bubbles on the grill is if we get enough steam that is created by the fat and all the water in there, it'll create steam and then the surface will puff up and it'll puff up like a clamshell. Now it's trickier to do with flour, it's a lot easier to do with corn because it's fresher and there's a lot more moisture in there. But if you make like a perfect flour tortilla, it will puff up and it'll be beautiful. Now, are there any other questions out there? Come back up here, Snowcone.
Except I felt something when I was like up on the top stool that it was gonna hurt me, so I stuffed it down here just in case I melt.
Okay, well I'm sorry that you thought you were gonna melt being on the top step, but you're not, because you're not actually a snow cone, right?
I am a snow cone.
Okay, you are a snow cone. Well, those are tortillas. We're gonna cook the rest of them, and then we will turn them into our fish tacos later. Again, I'm cooking them. Technically, they're ready to eat. They'll be perfectly fine. But I'm of the opinion that they should be cooked now, and then they should be cooked again right before they're served. That way they get that much more flavor. They're hot, soft, and ready. It's a beautiful thing. So if there are any questions, leave them in the comments. Otherwise, we're just gonna do this. You've seen this, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. Enjoy your tacos.